It's time to review the other version. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. A couple of days ago, we reviewed the new modern SG Supreme. We learned about its history, initially being a 1999 model, who went through a few different spec changes throughout its life, but it finally got rebirthed in a fire burst, trans ebony burst, and new wine red color. However, as Gibson likes to do, we've got an exclusive version. So this time, the first thing that might catch your attention is the fact that we have 3 humbuckers on here. Very original Black Beauty vibes, or maybe even just SG Customs in general. They tend to have 3 humbuckers, you just don't have the fancy vibrola or anything. But how cool would that be on this model? But then, what's the thing about an SG Supreme that makes it so supreme? You have a flame maple cap, and this one is solid black, so it's actually spec'd out as plain maple this time. So you might think, that's kind of boring, what's the point of that? But you gotta remember, you still have your slightly chunkier body, and they still use the different woods to make the guitar. But that's kind of your trade-off for this model. It's still the $34.99 price, you just get an extra pickup, and they slightly downgrade the prettiness of the woods. But they also have to change up your wiring due to the pickups. You've got 3 volumes and a master tone. And yes, they all do have coil splitting options with a push-pull pot. So this is a great recording guitar if you want to tinker, have like 5 on the neck. You can blend it and have a lot of fun. It's just like the Les Paul Supreme version. We've reviewed both of them. But as far as the neck, everything is the same here. You still have the mother of pearl Super 400 inlays. This is still Gibson USA production. It didn't get moved to custom shop or anything. That's the whole claim to fame to the Supreme series. It's the highest end of Gibson USA. Then of course we've got our chandelier inlay style and a straight ebony back. Wouldn't that have been cool if it was like a natural back and then they just have the top be black? That would be interesting. Maybe the mod collection guys will make it happen. Now, as far as the case and case candy, do they change it up for this particular model? Nope, it's all the same stuff. Gibson strap, usual paperwork, warranty cards, etc. So you tell me, which one is the more attractive one? I mean, now that I have them side by side, I can definitely see why the blinginess of this one would be so attractive. But I feel the SG body shape just pulls off having a flame top so much better, and it doesn't quite have as much of a history as being completely tuxedoed. I think it would have been really cool had they offered a white 3 pickup version on this one as their exclusive, or maybe we could see that in the future. But I know white finishes are a little bit more difficult for Gibson to produce. But let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench, put it through its paces, and see which one we like better at the end of the day. Inside the ebony one, let's take a look at our pickups first. The neck is labeled the Rhythm Pro, and the spec sheet calls this one another Rhythm Pro. However, on the pickup it's actually labeled Mid Pro. And then our typical Lead Pro Plus in the bridge pickup. So these are a version of burst bucker pickups in here. This is how the pickups leave the factory, neck and double bridge setup as far as where the pull pieces go. These do have the side-mounted output jack. As far as our readings, you have to remember this is 3 volumes, so you're kind of blending in your middle pickup. So we'll turn that off. That gives us our traditional bridge of 8.31 k ohms. And the neck a little bit less at 7.54, and then just those 2 pickups together, 3.99. But then, as you can see, you can blend your middle pickup in, and then that'll change your readings. Don't forget, each of the pickups can coil split, so you can get those half single coils as well. I would almost say there's too many tones to choose from, but that's why I say these are great recording guitars, based on my experience with the black Les Paul Supreme. With everything on 10, here's how this works. This is going to be the neck position. This is going to be all 3 pickups within the circuit. Then the bridge position will be these 2 pickups together. So if you want to isolate just the middle pickup, in theory, you could turn these off and get it, but the way this is wired, you can't. That's why it reads nothing, because these just become the master volumes. So if one of them is turned all the way off, it turns all of them off. That's just how they wire them up typically. So as far as I'm aware, no way to just isolate that, but as I was showing you earlier, it is a blending in all those other positions, or you can just have it completely out by turning that particular one to 0. Here you can take a quick peek inside the cavities. They are separated. It's not like a swimming pool route or anything. You've got a long neck tenon in here, but everything's covered over in black, so unfortunately we can't really see the bare wood, except for the mahogany all the way down there. There were some pretty extreme splinters left along the cavities. I decided to pull them out because I like to use these when I have to tighten up loose strap buttons. Only authentic Gibson wood can be used for that. But you can just barely make out some of the plain maple right there. And here's the thing, with Gibson's thin nitro finishes, if you have a flame top underneath your solid color finish, occasionally you'll still see the flames ridges, and I am not seeing any of that on this particular one, so I think we can believe their claim that they're plain maple tops. I suppose the nice thing, if you didn't like how you could see the maple top and the mahogany body on that other example, is this one you just get the full-on chunky SG and it's one solid color, so it doesn't look different outside of looking chunkier. Being a chunkier SG, I would love to just see a plain maple version, because sometimes plain maple's beautiful too. It doesn't always have to be crazy flamey stuff. Now, if you're interested in being the next owner of this one, I am noticing a small dent right here. It's tiny, but worth knowing about. And being a black finish, there's polishing swirls, light scratches pretty much all over. That's just to be expected on a black guitar. But now our bridge and tailpiece system. Lightweight aluminum, advanced plated incorporated, branded for our bridge, Nashville in style, with a lightweight tailpiece, same company. And these do come with a poker chip in the case. I can totally understand why they removed it, because this model, once again, it uses 24 frets, so you don't need a tenon cover. They decided not to put a pick guard. But you know, for the ebony version, it just looks a little bit too plain in my opinion. I think they should have gave it the 61 bat guard and put that on stock to make this look a little bit more customified. That pick guard is not included, but I don't see why it wouldn't fit, or why you couldn't order one from a company that makes them. Moving on from the two-piece maple top and mahogany body, you've got the mahogany neck with the ebony fretboard. If you look at the ebony fretboard on this one, it's much nicer than the one that we had reviewed a day or two ago. It doesn't quite have the same black splotches that I was asking questions about, but they are on a lot of them. The real pearl inlays look quite nice on this one. Look right here, you see how nice the fret nib is formed? The issues with tooling marks, I think it comes after the neck scraping process, because look here, it's almost like the fret nib is getting caught by the plek machine when it goes down. It planes it away and then you're left with all those nasty marks. I wonder if it's really the plek machine that is Gibson's downfall as far as the really nitpicky tooling marks, and not necessarily the handcrafted nature of it. As per usual, we've got quite a few tooling marks and black smudges, etc. I've also been seeing this a lot lately on ebony finished guitars. We saw this on my Trans Black Supreme Les Paul, where the black finish bleeds into where the nut is right there and then gets clear coated over. And if you look at it, it almost seems like maybe the finish bled over onto the top of the fretboard right here. It's either that or that's just more tooling marks. I'm not entirely too sure. It might be extra seeded into there. Something that would have been interesting for Gibson to do was make their first 25 fret guitar. If you look, this area is almost twice as big as the last fretting area. You could potentially put another fret on there if you really wanted to. And Gibson's marketing could have been, this one is one better than the rest. 3 additional frets than a regular SG. That would have been silly, but I would have loved it. It's also important to note that this is a compound radius fretboard, so it's going to be a little bit more rounded over here, and then it gets flatter as it goes up the neck for easier soloing. The nut measures 1.71 inches, 12th fret just shy of 210, first fret neck depth 0.81, and 0.91 by the 12th, just a nice rounded C. Now moving on to the face of the headstock, all of our regular stuff, multi-bound, chandelier logo, all done up in pearl. Truss rod's looking good, we can see the mahogany neck, and here's the cover that they use. Blank one is offered in the case. Moving on to the back, the black finish hides how many pieces the body might be. Our last one was 3 pieces, however they can vary. We were graced with the maple top in this cavity. It's nice and plain. I would love to see a baritone SG similar to this done up in a honey burst, because I feel the thicker body would pull off that well. And we're already extending how many frets we've got. We might as well extend the scale length too. Hopefully Gibson will experiment with baritones again very shortly, because those are awesome guitars. But that's a nice cross section of your mahogany body joining onto the maple. And yes, this one is also hand wired, which probably takes quite a bit of effort on Gibson USA's part. So that's 3 push-pull pots, then 1 orange drop capacitor with a Gibson branded pot, output jack plate in gold, large strap button, and one up here on the horn, and we can move up the back side of the neck. I do see some minor superficial scratches in the clear coat right here. Maybe this one was demoed by a customer in the store before it got to me. Before we get to those locking Grover tuners done up in gold. This is an early 2024 example, 3rd day of the year. All said and done, this one is 8 pounds, 2.5 ounces. Let's go ahead and hear how it sounds with 3 pickups in it. time we did the SG Supreme, I thought it was a very modern sounding guitar. Having the middle pickup in your main positions gives it more of a vintage tone. I like that. However, there's a lot of stuff in your way of picking here. Now you can lower that middle pickup and a few other tricks, but just something to keep in mind. But now I'm going to take the middle pickup out and we'll just demo it normal. And now our traditional middle, these two. Like this one better than the red one so far. Even taking that middle pickup out, it just sounds completely different to my ears. But don't forget, you can technically blend that as well. I'd argue it's more of like an on-off switch. Once you get to about 9, you really hear the drastic difference. Where it's very subtle for the rest. It's odd, I'm having a hard time getting this guitar to distort. Usually this setting's pretty aggressive on my other guitars. More of like a nice overdrive. So there we go, the modern SG Supreme. I forgot to do the neck dive test. I'd say this one balances even better than that red one, and it doesn't feel as heavy, but that's going to vary example to example. But ultimately, I kind of feel a similar way about this one. Maybe I need to marinate more on the model, but I wasn't really inspired by these pickups in the slightest. I know they've got the whole blending control in with them, but I really only saw a few distinct tones. Like maybe we'd be better off with like a baritone selector type switch. So this might not be the model exactly for me. It's a great built guitar, it's just I'm not a big fan of burstbucker pickups, I guess. At least not this particular set. However, I would argue the 3 pickup version sounds a little bit closer to the vintage styles that I like. Based on these two, I think I would choose this for looks, but I would choose this for tone. But ultimately, I think they need to dress this guy up just a little bit more with a pick guard. Even though the baseline model doesn't have it, it just looks a little bit naked. But it's certainly a unique one for the Gibson history books. Alright, Troglodytes, if you're interested in being the next owner of this demo model, you can find it for sale on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. Otherwise, enjoy your newfound guitar knowledge, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.